Today we talk about Soccero, a sport game about tennis. No, not exactly. Guess the sport that is represented in the game. It is that sport that in English is known as soccer, among other names. Football is another one, I guess, but it really should only be called either calcio or fuciball. Other names for this sport just don't have the same ring of truth to them. In any case, Soccero, a two-player game about soccer. It comes with a set of basic rules, printed version in the box, but there are also advanced rules that are available for download on the website of the publisher, and I do recommend having a look at those rules before you start playing the game, after you read the basic rules, of course, because those rules really do not add much complexity to the game, but they do add fun elements, they do add some detail, some interesting options, and the good thing is that you do not have to get the entire package. You can just pick and choose. You can adopt as many or as few of those rules as you like, so I would say keep your options open and have a look at those rules. In any case, now let me tell you how soccer is played. At the beginning of the game, the players decide how long the game they're going to play is going to be. It can be a regular game with two halves of 45 minutes each, or it can be less. But trust me, when I heard 45 minutes each half, I thought, oh, that's gonna be too long. Then we played a game with just 20 minutes per half, and we thought that was way too short. Then we immediately played another game with 30 minutes, and that was good, but we probably would have liked a little longer. So it turns out that 45 minutes is possible. On that end, of course, you can always play the game for less time. But you need to agree before that on the time, and then you need to have a timer to keep track of that, and that is very important. You select randomly the player that will have the ball at the beginning, then the players set their players on the board. The players cannot be placed one adjacent to the other, with the exception of the player right in front of the ball and another player adjacent to him. Otherwise, there has to be a space between players. Only the goalie can be in the penalty area at the beginning of the game, and the team that does not have the ball cannot place any of their players in these 6 squares here. This is the situation. The game is ready to start. The team with the ball goes first. The ball is passed to the player adjacent to the first player. This is customary. And then the actual game starts with that team taking a turn. During your turn, if you control the team with the ball, you can choose to move or to kick the ball. You cannot do both. If you are the team without the ball, you can only move. When you move, you roll a d6, and the number that you roll is the total number of squares that your team can move. And you can divide those points among any number of your players. Players can move orthogonally, diagonally. The only restriction is that they can move in a single direction in a turn. That is, a player that is moving cannot change direction during movement. For example, here I have 5. This player here could move 1, 2, but then he could not go further because there is somebody else there. And then I decide to move this other guy 3 and 4, and then this other guy here 5. I don't even know if that makes sense. I just moved players randomly to show you how you divide your movement points. You cannot move one of your players in an area containing another one of your players. You can move a player in an area containing the player or the opponent with the ball. You do that to steal the ball. But the only way to do that is to roll the exact number that you need to enter that square. For example, if I roll a 1, I could move this player here by exactly 1 in there, and I steal the ball, and the owner of that player chooses an adjacent square where to place his player, and then that turn was over because I used all of my movement to reach there and to steal the ball from that player. However, had I rolled higher than that, I could not have used 4 points of movement around the board and then 1 point just to get there. It has to be the exact number. The basic rules say that if you keep the ball, after you have kept the ball, you have to kick it. You cannot keep the ball for several turns in a row. And this is something I don't like very much. I much prefer the advanced rules in this, and I suggest playing with this rule, which is that when you receive the ball, you can, well, move with it, and then next turn you're keeping that ball. In the basic game you would have to kick it, no matter whether or not that makes sense. In the advanced rules, what happens is that you can keep the ball as long as you are not adjacent to players of the other team. So you can run through the field with your ball if no one is close to you, but if you have been retaining the ball, if a player has been retaining the ball, or the player gets adjacent, that the player has to kick. You can also choose to drop the ball as you go and then to use another player of yours to pick up the ball, for example like this. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just a way in which the ball can go in more than one direction in a turn. And as I said earlier, you can also kick the ball, of course only if you are the player with the ball. If you kick the ball, you choose how many dice to roll to determine the strength. It can be 1 or 2 dice, and you use this die here that will determine the type of kick that you will be able to perform. This is a straight kick against the ground, on the ground. This is a curved ball, again, that goes against the surface on the ground. And this is a ball, a kick in the air. And both this and this can be curved. Now, you roll the dice, and that tells you the strength of the kick, that is the maximum amount of squares by which the ball will travel. The ball will travel that full distance unless it encounters a player, yours or a player of the opponent. In that case, the ball stops in that space. For example, with 9, I have 9 points and a straight. I could choose to kick that ball in any direction, orthogonally or diagonally, but on in a straight line. I would be able to pass the ball to this guy here. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. Suppose that actually this is the situation. We have a curveball. That means that I can still kick the ball up to 9 squares away, but I can also have the ball take a 45 degrees as it goes. For example, I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The ball is going against the ground. That means that it will stop when it enters one of my players, or an area with one of my players, or an area with a player of the opponent. The kick in the air works similarly. The ball can also take a 45 degrees turn during its flight, but in this case it can go over your own players. However, it cannot go over the players of the opponent. Well, as soon as it gets there, it stops there. The player intercepts it, which physically doesn't really make much sense because, of course, the ball is making a curve. It is not always at the same distance. Sometimes these people in the field would just take these incredible ninja jumps and be able to intercept it. Well, in reality, you never use that kick because you know that the players of the opponent are ninjas and they would intercept your ball. But what is your goal in this game? Well, guess what? To score goals. Hence the name, goal. Anyhow, after this quick lesson in etymology, yes, you're trying to get the ball in there past the goalie of the opponent, and to do that you need to kick it in there. When you're ready to kick the ball there to score a point, you have to announce that. That means that after you roll, you will have to roll in the direction of the scoring area, no matter what you roll, that is, whether or not the roll is beneficial to you. Suppose that you roll just like a lame kick like that. Well, that's too bad. Now, when the ball goes past one of the 2 squares that are lateral to the goalie of the opponent the opponent can try to stop it. In that case, the goalie rolls a die. 1 to 4, the interception fails, and the ball goes in. Yay! 5 or 6, the ball is intercepted and the goalie takes it, and then the goalie will kicks it as far as possible, or wherever it is beneficial to the goalie and to that team to kick it. In any case, the goalie has intercepted it. Important thing though, if the ball hits the goal post, it automatically bounces inside that area that scores your goal. Yes, that is how it works. It will never bounce on the outer edge. And of course, that is important because in a case such as that one, otherwise the goalie could just sit there and block all of the balls, or at least get a good chance of blocking all the balls that are there. But in this case, actually, the goalie would be open to a goal score there. So actually, even though it seems easy to just leave your goalie there for the entire game, that's where there are very good reasons to move your goalie around, to move the projection of the area that he can cover, he can try to save. And well, there are a lot of decisions that have to be made, and they become particularly tense when, of course, the ball gets close to the scoring area of one of the two teams. The game also comes with 2 sand clocks that time 30 seconds. These are used if the opponent takes too much time to take his move. Usually we didn't use them, but we found that you can use them if you want, and when the ball gets around this area, then actually it's kind of fun, if somewhat mean, to just force the opponent to take a quick decision, so the opponent doesn't have much time to organize his defenses. It just puts a psychological pressure that, well, makes things interesting. So in most cases you will not use them, you just use them when it is fun to do so. And of course, then you have other small rules, even in the basic rules, like how you resolve when the ball gets out of the field, or how you resolve offside. But these are the main ideas. You simply keep going back and forth, you try to score a goal. When a goal is scored, the ball is back to the middle of the field, and you start a new round, a new session, until the end of the first half, and then the second half. And at that point, the player with the highest number of goals scored is the winner. And like in real soccer, a draw is entirely possible. First you set up the game, and the game looks pretty cool. Then you teach the game to a friend of yours, and the friend looks at you like, okay, we roll some dice, we move a ball around, this is gonna be some sort of like no-brainer, light filler, probably something of an average experience. A turn or two, the opponent does not play, thinks, oh, this is like checkers or chess. 10 minutes later, the player says, who cares what this looks like? This is crazy fun. The game drags you in. I'm trying to tell you in this conclusion how fun the game is, but I already know that I don't think you'll believe me. You really have to try this game to see how fun it is, how unpredictably fun, how disproportionately fun it is. Everybody played it with was surprised by this. They were like, oh, let's try it. And they were like, can we play more? Can we try again? Can we have like a longer game? Because this is crazy. Everybody was just amazed by how well the game played, how interesting the situations emerging from the games, from the game were. Some situations seem no-brainers, but then you roll the dice and you do not get exactly the kick that you want, and you have to adjust around that. Some moments things seem easy to you, and then the opponent manages to rearrange his players around you, and all of a sudden you have that sense of claustrophobia. There are a couple of turns in which you're struggling to get out of that area full of opponents, and then you see an opening and you go for it, and sometimes it works, and you have that discharge of adrenaline, which is totally awesome. So the times it doesn't work, and you're more like a moment. What is also great is indeed how fast the situation can change on the field. Sometimes you really have the sense that you have set up this perfect plan, and step after step, passage after passage, kick after kick, you manage to cleverly and masterfully bring the ball close to the area where you can score it. Then you miss one kick, the goalie of the opponent kicks the ball to the other side of the field, there is an opponent there that is ready to catch it, and all of a sudden you find yourself very close to have a goal scored against you. The situation can be reverted very easily, very quickly, which is exciting. And you see that actually that is far from being entirely random. If the opponent has, for example, placed some players forward close to the area that you're trying to defend, and those maybe will not be very useful for most of the game, but then you get an opening from a distance, you manage to run through the field or to get a good kick in there. And that the fact that those people have been there, quote unquote, sacrificed because they haven't done much, well, all of a sudden those people, those players that maybe had been overlooked by the opponent, of course, become key elements in your strategy. You do have to have these two aspects of gameplay here to tactically respond to whatever is happening, and whenever you have some extra movement point to plan in advance and to see, well, again, what you can do in 2, 3, 10 turns, what you can do to surprise the opponent. I really like the balance there between the immediate reaction to emergencies that may arise, to opportunities that may arise. At the same time, you have to balance that with medium or long-term planning to be able to, well, score well. For a game this simple, for a game this light, easy to teach, this is a game that really has a lot to offer. And what surprised me also is that I did have the feeling that this is a game that really is about soccer, that the theme is definitely here. It didn't feel chess or checkers with some dice and a ball. There really was a lot of soccer that came into this, and take it from an Italian that, well, an Italian who hasn't played much soccer because, well, that's a lot of work, and then people kick you. If they don't kick you, you have to pretend that they kicked you, so there's some acting into that, and I'm bad at both, acting and running, so not for me. But I watched my fair share of soccer. I ate bread and soccer as I was growing up, and I think that there is enough soccer here to please soccer fans. It is not an uber complicated, uber detailed simulation, even though it gets more detailed with advanced rules. There are definitely other games that are more detailed, but probably you would sacrifice something of the elegance, of the momentum, of the pace of the game. To me, here there is a fantastic balance between playability and on one hand, and still sense of theme and detail in the game. So overall, I really had a good time playing soccer. Everybody I played it with had an equally good time too. I suggest you take a look at this game. You may really be surprised by it.